Welcome to the Punter weekend's Premier League games. I'm Flash Gordon Watson, and today I'm with Blue Square's top man Alan Alger and the mad Scotsman Chrissy Graham. Now we start off with most volatile, opinionated club Arsenal. 1 minute they're the best, they're going to be champions, and then they can't keep a clean sheet and no one wants them. And they host Tottenham. Do you want that game?
Well, Flash, as you know, I'm one of these people that's had a consistent opinion about my team, Arsenal, and that's that they have been overrated for a number of seasons, and some of their players have been overrated, and I've even gone as far as to say the manager's been overrated quite a bit. And this particular game was classed as a defining game last year, when Tottenham came to Arsenal late in the season, and all they had to do was maybe draw the game just to extend a nice gap over the Gunners, which would have taken them to the Champions League. Didn't happen. They went 2-0 up. Arsenal came back for a 5-2, and we saw a really exciting game there. So the prices don't really reflect that. They more or less reflect the start of the season that both clubs have had. OK, Christy Graham, what do the prices reflect?
Well, I guess the question for me here is, can you back Arsenal at odds on? Everything that's happening at the moment, a 3-3 draw against Fulham, losing leads left, right and centre, and they're 19-20 odds on. Not for me. The draw 11-4 and Spurs at 3-1. I think Spurs have got potential here. Of course, they beat Manchester United. They lost late to Man City last week. I think probably the draw, at me, 11-4 is the shout here. More draws in this fixture than any Premier League fixture in history. So odds on Arsenal, no thank you. 11-4 draw, that's what I'm thinking.
If you're going for a draw, then would you look for a 2-2, over 2.5 goals, 1-1, under?
I think people look at last year's game and a few of the games that went before that at the Emirates, with high-scoring games between these two teams, and say that over 2.5 is the way to go. But I really think you've got to be against the crowd here, because it's early in the season, it's a defining game, both clubs can't afford to lose, they haven't had the best of starts, either of them, Arsenal's worst in 17 years. Under 2.5 is my nap for this game.
Under 2.5, sounds like value, Chrissy G.
I'm not so sure, Flash. I mean, I'm a big stats man, as you know, and this fixture's had so many goals in recent years. It's absolutely carnage. So for me, I'd be looking at over 3.5 here at 6-4. We saw 5-2, we saw 3-3, we saw 3-2, we saw 4-1s, we saw huge scorelines, and both sides are so insecure at the moment, their defences, that I think over 3.5 at 6-4 is the shout.
OK, you pay your money, you take your chance, but if you're going to see goals, then I need a first goal scorer. And have you got anything on that?
Well, this market, I think it just goes to show that both clubs haven't got many options. And you've got at the head of the market for Arsenal, you've got Olivier Giroud and Lucas Podolski. Podolski's been playing out wide. You've got Theo Walcott as the third favourite in the Arsenal lineup, just to show, I mean, obviously he's been playing out wide, wants to play through the front. So there's no real standout like there's been in recent years with Robin van Persie for them. Jermaine Defoe and Adebayor heading the market for Tottenham.
Giroud, Defoe? Chrissy G, what you got?
I don't think any Spurs fans will be backing Defoe after he was pictured with Sol Campbell earlier in the week. That upset quite a few of them on Twitter. For me, it's Adebayor here at 11-1. This guy just loves winding up Arsenal. We saw it when he played for Man City. We saw it when he's played against Spurs. He's got a great record in this particular match for Arsenal and for Spurs. And I think for me, he's a huge price here at 11-1.
OK, Emmanuel Adebayor at 11-1. Well, that's the North London derby sorted out. Now we're off to Anfield. It's Liverpool versus Wigan, and Liverpool not going to get an easier chance to get 3 points.
How many home games have they played where we've said that, though, Flash? And
over the last 2 years,
yeah,
too many.
And they've really been a bookie's benefit, and maybe going back further than 2 years.
Wigan coming off of beating Tottenham, so would you say that Wigan have got chances?
They're not the kind of side for me that put two results together back-to-back. That's where I would be doubting that. But again, as bookmakers, you have to go best price Liverpool whenever they're at home, and it's still going to be odds on. You know, if you can go 4-7 when everyone else is going 8-15 and take all those lumpy singles, get all the accumulators in, they let punters down more often than not, and that's how we get our money.
Chrissy G, what price Liverpool?
They're short again, Flash. Short again. Every week it's a common theme, isn't it? 1-2 Liverpool. Very, very short. 7-2 the draw and 7-1 Wigan here. Wigan, for me, the absolute shout here. Liverpool just won 3 times in 2012 at Anfield. Wigan beat them at Anfield back in March. Liverpool, for me, a team you just can't trust at the moment. Wigan are capable, as we've saw all year, of going to take on big teams and getting 3 points. And I think they're definitely the value here at a chunky 7-1.
Cheers, Chrissy G. Well, we're going to go off to the Etihad now. Man City versus Villa. And Villa, I see, are double figures. Man City got to win.
They have got to win because there's a lot of pressure on Roberto Mancini now. And the way that they've started this campaign, the Champions League, there's been plenty of opinion flying about that. So we don't need to remind people of how they stand in that particular competition, but they do need to retain this title. The amount of money that they spend, there's absolutely no way whatsoever they can't be challenging all the way to the end of this particular campaign. And if Manchester United continue their good form, I think one thing with Manchester United, they're not really drawing games, so they're either winning or losing, but obviously winning more often than not. And that's where they're getting points on the board. And City really need to start doing that. They don't do that. They concede lots of goals. They often give away the first goal in the game. And I think Villa, after that Capital One Cup victory, I know they were totally different personnel that day, but they will come here with a lot of confidence and they've got absolutely nothing to lose at the prices.
Chrissy G, worried about Champions League next week. What price Man City?
Extremely short, as you can imagine. 2-9 there. Villa 14-1 and draw 13-2. I saw more about Villa last week in defeat than I have in any of the wins so far this season, and there've been few, let's be honest. The side I think will be right in the relegation mix-up come May, and there's a lot of promise last week, but not enough for me to convince that they can do anything to Man City here on Saturday. For me, I think City will win this comfortably. They'll beat them up. And I think 11-10 on City to win to 0 is one of my favourite bets of the weekend.
Very brave after Villa scoring 4 in the Capital One Cup earlier on in the season there. Next to St James's Park, Newcastle versus Swansea. I think a bit of value here for Newcastle. Swansea were awful last week and got a draw at St Mary's. Newcastle for you?
Well, last season, Newcastle were one of the most popular teams for punters because they were playing in home games where they were just a shade odds on, maybe 10 to 11, 5 to 6, and you could bank on them. You could actually rely on them. Like we've just been saying about Liverpool being much shorter than that and not relying on them. Last season, you could do that with Newcastle. Not so much this season. Too many drawn games at home where they've been expected to win. A lot of those on a Sunday where punters are chasing their losses and then coming a cropper. So this is a game that I expect people to back Newcastle, but they're not the type of team that I would trust this season. The personnel slightly changed from last season, but I still think that Alan Pardew should be getting the kind of performances out of them that will beat sides like Swansea at home. But I couldn't be confident they will this weekend.
Chrissy G, are we getting any value on Newcastle coming off a 1-0 defeat at home to West Ham?
It's evens, which appeals to me a little bit. I think that's quite a decent price. I think they're just a class apart for Swansea. I think they're just a better side. And I think they've struggled with the Europa League Sunday matches, 2 games a week. I think they've struggled with that this season. But I just think they're too good for Swansea, who've got a wretched record against Newcastle. Even money. And remember, Swansea have never ever won the Premier League in November.
Cheers, Chrissy G. Well, we're going to go to Loftus Road now. Biggest 3 o'clock kickoff. El Sacchio, they're calling it. Queen's Park Rangers bottom. Southampton second from bottom. And I think Southampton can get something out of this game.
Well, did you know that QPR were one of the best back teams last week for their visit to Stoke? And we saw lots of action for them at 7-2. They were backed into 3-1 before the kick-off. And I read loads of columns from quite shrewd punters that follow the Premier League quite closely. And they were saying that Stoke are no great shakes this season and QPR will go and win. They were well back to do so. They didn't. They're still seeking that first win. I'm just wondering if those punters will again say, right, we're going to trust them this week. We're going to get our losses back from last week because they're only playing Southampton at home. But you say only, both sides in poor form. At least Southampton know how to win a game.
Yeah, Southampton just not getting rubber to green at the moment, but they score in nearly every single game. So what price Southampton, Chrissy G?
A decent 16-5 flash, of course, just over 3-1 there. But how many chances do we give QPR? How many chances do you want to give them at these kind of short, prohibitive prices? Not for me. This game just reeks of carnage. Lots of goals and defensive, shambolic displays everywhere you look. So for me, probably the draw at 13-5. I can't be backing QPR at evens.
No, I wouldn't back QPR even, especially when Southampton are so desperate for their points. We're off to the Majeski next. It's Reading versus Everton, and a lot of people want to be with Everton here. I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I think Reading are the kind of side that could throw in the odd shock performance this season, and Everton are being overbet in their games. People think that they are the team outside of those big names that you can rely on this season, much like I said Newcastle were last year. So they're outperforming where they should be in the market. They're a decent handicap team because they usually get underrated on that throughout the course of the whole season. We all know that David Moyes does a good job, but in games like this, they are actually drawing plenty of games, and I think it was the whole of October they played 3 Premier League games and drew all 3 of them. They've had a win already this month, but I would say that I wouldn't be trusting Everton at the prices on offer.
Chrissy G, we want to lay Everton. Are we going to get rich?
Absolutely, yes. I completely agree with Alan. They've become the new Liverpool. The Merseyside cousins, short prices every single week. Everton 17 to 20. Odds on, come on. Not for me. Reading 72, the draw 11 to 4. Remember, Reading beat them in the League Cup last season. They beat them the last time they were in the Premier League, and they're definitely capable, like Alan says, of producing surprise performances this season. I think it could be tomorrow, you know.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same way as you. I think Reading and the draw is definitely the way to go. And then the last one on Saturday, West Bromwich Albion versus Chelsea. West Brom only been beaten at home by Man City, and that was a last-minute goal. Chelsea, a few injury problems. West Brom do it again?
I'm wondering if they can. I think they can get at least a point from the game, Flash, and there's a stat knocking around which is a good one. West Brom are the only team not to concede in the first 30 minutes of games in the Premier League this season. Chelsea, if they don't keep it tight, they'll be pushing for a goal, and I think that West Brom can knock something in on the break, maybe at the early stages of the second half here, and I think they're a good price to do so, because I think Chelsea could get frustrated. They'll be expecting to win. They need to keep up with Manchester United, much like Man City do.
Chrissy G, we don't fancy Chelsea over here. What price to lay?
There we go, even money, Chelsea. And yeah, I agree with you. I mean, what Steve Clarke has done at West Brom this season has been nothing short of sensational. And they're 3 to 1 here. Won 4 of their 5 home games this season. The draw 11 to 4. Of course, remember they beat Chelsea back in March when Villas-Boas got sacked.
Cheers, Chrissy G. Well, there's your 3 o'clock kickoffs. We'll see you in 2. Welcome to the Punter. I'm Flash Gordon-Watson. I'm joined by Blue Square's top man, Alan Alger, and on the other side of the studio, giving you all the stats and the prices, is Chrissy Graham. Well, we're going to start with Norwich versus Manchester United at Carrow Road. It's your 5:30 kickoff, and Man United going great guns.
They are. They're averaging 2.64 goals per game on their own, so they're making the over 2.5 without the help of their opponents. But Norwich are unbeaten in their last 4 games, and they're actually got some good form in amongst that. They beat Arsenal. I don't think that is good form, by the way.
No, it wasn't on that.
Arsenal was shocking that day. But I think there'll be punters around looking for a big price Norwich to try and get something out of the game.
OK, Chrissy Graham, big price Norwich.
Indeed, as you'd expect, 7 to 1 there at home at Carrow Road. Like Alan says, in good form at the moment, just 1 defeat in 6. It's almost a shame that they've come up against Manchester United now. I think their good form will end here. I think Man United will win convincingly, and I think the 4 to 9 is an absolute banker.
Well, if 4 to 9 is a banker, then that means that the unders and overs has got to be over.
Well, as I say, Man U doing it themselves this season, 2.64 goals per game. You'd expect Norwich to maybe knock in 1. Man U's defence hasn't been that good this season. So I would say that the over will be a very short price, but is very likely to come in.
Over 2.5, very short, Chrissy G. Maybe over 3.5, about the market?
Yeah, with you there, Flash. I think 8 to 15 is still a working man's price, isn't it? Certainly, I'm a working class man like me. So over 3.5 at 7 to 5. Man United scored 2 or more in their last 10 games, and they've spent over 2.5 in their last 10 games as well. It's all about overs here, and I think 3.5 at 7 to 5 is a decent price.
Cheers, Chrissy G. Now, I look at Manchester United, and I'm trying to find a first goal scorer. Hernandez, Welbeck, Rooney, Van Persie. The list is endless.
Yeah, I think you do have to wait until you see the lineups, because you can end up with a player on the bench, which is okay if it's Hernandez because he comes on and scores anyway. But I think if you want to bet and you actually want value for money, you need to probably wait half an hour before the game, wait for the lineups and see which one of the abundance of talent that they've got in the team is starting in the lineup.
And let's not forget, Grant Holt likes to get the first goal for Norwich. But for me, a Man United goal scorer, Chrissy G?
Indeed, the huge presence of Grant Holt there at 10-1. But Man United players, take your pick. And you know, I just look at the prices. It's got to be Hernandez for me. Ferguson said last week he'll be in the starting 11 for this game. So he's almost double the price of Van Persie, and we know he's in red hot form at the moment. So the wee Mexican for me at 11-2.
11-2 about Chicharito Little P. Okay, we're going to go on to Sunday kickoff, and it's Fulham versus Sunderland. One motto we say week in, week out: we do not oppose Fulham at the Cottage for nothing.
No, and we know that they're one of the poorest Premier League away sides ever in history. Their stats away from home are appalling, but you can rely on them at Craven Cottage, as you just said. So obviously they're going to be favourites for this game. It's not the kind of game I probably want to put my feet up and watch on a Sunday afternoon between these two sides, but I actually think that Sunderland, they're in such a way at the moment. I think Martin O'Neill's almost panicking about whether or not his team selection. He's panicking about his interviews before games. He just seems a bit shot at the moment. I think if Fulham take advantage of that in the first 20 minutes, they could go on and record quite a big score here.
Sunderland scared punters last week by taking the lead at Goodison. What price are they to maybe win at the Cottage?
It's 17-4 to win at the Cottage. And like we said, it's a bit of a fortress for Fulham, isn't it? But, you know, I've invested so much faith in Sunderland this season since July. I'm getting more red-faced by the week, but I'm sticking in there. There were signs of recovery last week against Everton. They had a shot on target, for goodness sake, and they scored. So I'm going for 11-4 draw here. Sunderland to get back on the road to recovery.
If they're going to get the draw, Chris, I fancy they're going to have to park the bus, which might mean unders rather than overs.
Yeah, and I don't know how much Sunderland can actually bring to the party here on the goals. We talked about Man U contributing 2.64 to their games. Well, Sunderland just can't find goals at the moment. So it's a big struggle for them. I know they scored at Everton, but I think if you have backed over 2.5 for this game, you need to rely on Fulham rather than the away team. OK, we're looking at unders, I guess, here, Chrissy.
Yeah, I reckon so. I think 4 of the last 8 matchups between these sides have been 0-0. So what does that tell you? So under 2.5 here, even money appeals to me, despite the fact that Fulham, 10 of the last 11 Fulham games have gone over 2.5. But I think a low-scoring game here today to suit the stats, under 2.5, even money.
Even money doesn't sound bad at under 2.5, but we still got to find maybe a 1 or 2 goal scorers. Kakaniklic did well in midweek. We've got Damien Duff, who's showing unbelievable form under Martin Jol, and we've got Dimitar Berbatov.
Yeah, consistently doing the business, and Berbatov last week was 20-1 to get a brace against Arsenal, and a few shrewdies that don't rate Arsenal managed to get on that price, and I just think that he is class, he's quality. I know that Arsene Wenger got sort of almost doorstepped after the game as to say, why didn't you buy him? And he ended up lying and saying he didn't know he was available. But I think Berbatov just shows that quality. Damien Duff's still doing it. Again, if you're relying on goals, you're relying on Fulham in this game.
First goal scorer market, Chrissy G. What price is Dimitar Berbatov?
He is 5-1, and you know he's in great form at the moment. 5 goals, 3 assists in 8 games for Fulham, so in tremendous form at the moment. Louis Saha as well has never, of course for Sunderland, has never been in the losing side against Fulham in 11 games. So it's a nice wee start for you. But you know what? I've got so much faith in Sunderland. I've got to have faith in Stephen Fletcher as well, my fellow Scot. He's been rubbish since he got called back up for Scotland, typically. But I think 15-2 to get back on track on Sunday.
Stephen Fletcher flying the flag for the Scots. He's a lone ranger. Last game of the weekend happens Monday night, and that's West Ham versus Stoke, and this looks like a complete humdinger.
It really does, but just overall, if you're betting on the Premier League, there is a stat that I need to say, and I've waited to the last game because I think this one will actually be a draw. If you take out the games that Manchester City, Manchester United and Chelsea have been involved in, so the 3 title contenders, take them out, every other game that hasn't involved them, 40% of them have ended in draws, which is the price of 6-4. So we're basically saying if you backed every single draw that didn't involve those clubs at 13-8, you'd be in profit. The prices we've seen on the screen for draws this season, everybody's topping it up because no punters back it. 11-4 each game. You would be in immense profit if all you did was take out the games involving the title contenders and just back draws blind. I think this one could be a draw, and I think that's a stat. If you're betting on the Premier League, you really need to remember this season.
Chrissy G, 6-4 on the stats. Must be much bigger the draw Monday night.
Alan, what a stat, man. What a stat. I'm bowing to you. I'll just, as a stats man, I'm in awe of you. What a great stat. I never heard that before. There we go. 12-5 the draw here. 21-20 West Ham. West Ham got promoted, remember? And they're almost odds on here at home to Stoke. Not for me. I'm with Alan all the way. I think it's the draw here at 12-5. Stoke producing a great display against QPR last week. OK, everyone produces a great display against QPR, but it was a solid performance. And 12-5 the draw for me is the shout. Like Alan's great stat suggests.
Yeah, well, we like the 12-5 when really it should be a 6-4 chance. Now, I look at this and I think goals are going to be at a premium.
Yeah, I think so, but it's the way that teams start games, and for me, Stoke haven't been the Stoke that we've known in past seasons, and I think that, yeah, exactly, and I think that's why people were back in QPR last week, thinking that maybe the novelty's worn off with Stoke, and Tony Pulis can't manage to do the magic that he's been working over the recent seasons. So I do find it hard to see where their goals are going to come from, whereas I think that West Ham have got a guy that needs to get off the mark very soon.
OK, well, we're going to go unders and overs now, Chrissy. What have you got?
Yeah, under 2.5 here, 4-5, and over 2.5, slight outside of there, 11-10. It's got to be unders for me. We know how whenever Stoke play, back the under. 7 of the last 8 Stoke games have gone under 2.5. They're in an under 2.5 bookies benefit at 4-5. Get on.
Yeah, there hasn't been many games this season that have been under 2.5, but this could well be one of them. Now, when you look at the first goal scorer market, there's one particular player for West Ham who's getting a lot of plaudits, but he's still not scoring.
Yeah, you're talking about Andy Carroll, and I backed him for the game against Arsenal because I thought that Sam Allardyce would get him to play against Arsenal's weaknesses and for West Ham's strengths, and it didn't materialise there. He had a couple of chances, but I still think that even against a side like Stoke that should be able to deal with him, he's got to get off the mark soon. And what I like to do in these markets, there are great each-way terms available. At Blue Square, we pay up to the 9th goal in a game each way, a third of the odds for any scorer. So really, if you're looking at any player that you think's going to get a goal in the game, don't back the anytime, back the first each way, and hopefully he notches the first goal.
What price is Andy Carroll to get the first goal on Monday night?
He is 11-2. They're 5.5 to 1 to score. You know, it's pretty short in his recent form. Back in September, everyone was saying, "Oh, what a great signing for West Ham." But you know, he's been pretty goal shy, like he was for Liverpool. But like Stephen Fletcher earlier in the show, I think this could be the game he turns it round. This particular player, 11-2, Andy Carroll there for me. Peter Crouch, best of the Stoke players at 9-1. But come on, Andy Carroll, back in winning ways here, 11-2.
There'll be a lot of people cheering you on there, Chrissy Graham. OK, well, we're going to indulge you a little bit here, Al. Enhanced Allen's specials. What have you got?
Well, our Blue Square traders have come up with some enhanced specials for the weekend, and the first one is focusing on some odds-on favourites. Now, Arsenal are only a shade of odds on against Tottenham, so I suppose that they're key to this first bet coming off, because we're offering Arsenal, Liverpool and Manchester City to win at 11-4. I think Liverpool, a very short price. We say they're a bookie's benefit, but people will think they're going to win, and Man City is short as well. If you fancy bigger prices, you can have Everton, Chelsea and Manchester United all to win at 5-1 this weekend. And if goal scorers is more your thing, Suarez, Aguero and Van Persie all to score this weekend at 5-1.
And they're all to score at any time, that bottom one. Suarez, Aguero and Van Persie?
Any time in the game. They all need to start for the bet to actually come off, otherwise it will be void.
OK, that's brilliant. So if you fancy any of them, have a good look. There's plenty bonuses out there for you to have a look. Just gives me enough time to say thank you to Chrissy G, the Mad Scotsman, with all your stats and your prices. Thank you to Blue Square's top man, Alan Alger. Until next time, I'll see you soon. Take care.